Hi guys and girls, Ben Wakely here. Hope everyone's had a great Sunday. We certainly have had a great weekend. Start of the Ekka was on Friday or Thursday, I can't remember what day it was, I haven't been in a while. But yeah, traditionally we notice the market picks up very, very close to spring. So I believe there's warm weather this week that's scheduled. So with that, on the weekend we saw large numbers of people out looking at open houses on the weekend. So really good start to spring almost, I guess. And you know, with Brisbane in for warm weather, you know, we were seeing in excess of 20 groups through some of the newer properties to market on the weekend. So exciting times ahead. Subject today: how to build a property portfolio. Now, I could probably sit here and talk to you guys about this for 2, 3, 4 hours, but we'll keep it pretty brief. We are going to be doing a little bit of a seminar later in the year. With the Grayer boys, we've talked about putting a little bit of a seminar together about people, because we do get asked a lot. They get asked a lot as well, how to get into the market. So we will be looking to do something a bit longer. I'll cover a few brief points today. Feel free to jump in and ask some questions. There was some people when we did post about this that have asked some questions that we will answer after I go through my little brief. As well, if you do have anything afterwards, feel free to ask me. As well, guys, if you do find this useful, please like it and look, tag your friend in it if you think they might find it useful. And the share button, love that currency of sharing. So if you do find it useful, like and share it. Look, guys, firstly, to start a property portfolio, you need to work out your financial goal. Could be a number of things. Is it passive income? Do you want to buy eventually buy a block of units, not work, and, live off the income, of the unit. So live off the rent, so to speak. Is that your goal? Or is your goal to be, is your property goal to own your own home, and have no debt? That would make a big difference in a lot of people's lives. I hear that the debt levels in Sydney, are pretty scary compared to Brisbane, so I only can comment on Brisbane, but, the economy's, topsy-turvy at the moment, so, with those sort of things, and job security, people like to keep their mortgages down, and, obviously you can't claim any of your primary place of residence expenses, so try and keep the cost down of living to allow yourself the choice to be able to do what you want in life, whether that be holidays or I don't know, I'm not into a heap of nice things, but some people are pretty materialistic and they might want nice things. So number one, work out your goal. Is it a passive income that you want to earn from property, or do you want to own your own home outright and and use your money that you've freed up from through property to do other things? Second thing is when you're building your property portfolio, I have made mistakes. Don't get me wrong, I've made mistakes. Know your market. Look, I was brought up in the inner western suburbs of Brisbane. Mum and Dad lived in Indooroopilly, then moved to Barden. So I know the inner west. I went to Nudgee Junior College, it's now Ambrose Tracy, and then to Nudgee College, but always have been in this area, be it the inner west, Paddington, Barden, Auchenflower, Red Hill, Indooroopilly, Toowong, Taringa, St Lucia, all those areas. I've owned property in pretty much all those suburbs, and I still do own property in the suburbs that I just mentioned. So I know those markets back to front. I know what a property's worth realistically as soon as I walk into the place, or what it's worth to me. Whether someone's willing to pay more, good on them, but I know the market back to front. I remember when I was about 20 years old, looking for my first property. I've still got a spreadsheet back at home, and one of the boys at work asked me to show me, but I had a spreadsheet of all the properties that were on the market in Paddington and what they'd sold for, and they're around about 180,000 then and to 220,000. So I knew the market back to front. So when I started buying, I knew what to pay, I knew what was a good buy. I bought a fair few properties sight unseen back in the day. Everyone's got their smartphones today. They've got their the internet, everyone's very highly educated. When I started buying, used to have to drive around the streets, so I knew the streets, knew the market, knew what flooded, knew what didn't flood, knew the streets that, that got a little bit more than others. So, I had to drive around and have a look at see a for sale sign. That's how I knew something was for sale. These days, you just look at your phone. So I knew the market back to front, educated myself, and bought, as a repeat, I bought a couple of properties that were sight unseen. They were units, and just buying them. I remember buying one in Warren Street, St. Lucia. It was number 67 Warren Street, and rang the agent. It was on the market for $155,000, and it was returning $275 a week fully furnished. So I just said, look, sign a contract, and I had a look at it after that. So I just knew with what was going on in the market at that stage, I knew that was a really good buy. The repayments recovered the mortgage and and all the outgoings as well. So it was a good investment, and turned it around for about $250,000. So I made $100,000 on that. So that just knowing your market back to front and being on the ball and being on your toes. Second tip. The other thing is, what are you going to use for capital? This is the third tip. What are you going to use to build your portfolio for capital? Are you going to buy a property, live in it, do it up, get it revalued, and then go and buy the next one with the equity, or are you going to cash out and sell out? Because you got to be wary when you do this. If you do buy and sell, you got to be wary. You do have, I'll admit, you do have agents' commissions, you do have marketing costs, you do have stamp duty, so you do have a few associated costs in transacting property. So what are you going to use as capital? If you don't have too much money left aside, are you going to have to sell that property? How many funds? So, example, buy a property for $500,000, spend $200,000 on it. It owes you $7,000. With ins and outs, it's probably up around $750,000. You sell it for $1 million. You make $250,000 profit. Are you going to use the $250,000 profit to go into a next property and a bigger property, which is going to make you a bigger return, or are you going to use the equity, get it revalued, and have that $250,000, still live in that property, but use the equity to buy another property or two? So, what are you going to use as your capital? Make sure you think about that. And fourth is have a plan. Have a plan, and don't just, if you're wanting to build a portfolio, obviously you're wanting just more than one property. So have a plan, and always have a backup plan. So, look, I've always said it's an old saying, it's, the house, it's not your wife, you can sell it. If you don't like it, if you fall on tougher times or you need some money, you can always sell it. So have that plan, have a backup plan in place in case things don't go right. So there's always that. Fifth, guys, just do it. I read an article today. It was in the Sunday Mail, actually. It said that your money is going backwards if you leave it in the bank because of inflation, which is right. So, you just got to go and do it. Get into the market. Study it. If you're really keen on property, that's probably why you're watching this video at the moment, or going to watch it later, or share it with your friends, or show your friends. Just do it. I see a lot of people walking around at opens, and I see them, and they're looking for 6, 12 months. And they never push the button. They're scared to push the button. You just got to do it. If you want to build a portfolio, you've got to start somewhere. I've got a very good mentor of mine. He's made a lot of mistakes in business. I have made mistakes in property. You will make mistakes. You learn from the mistakes. So just get in. You'll have fun. I see a lot of young couples out there. I follow a few on Instagram and Facebook, and I see them, and they're having a go. Look, they're not even, they're doing their own jobs. I see a couple in Barden. I was actually having a look at their page today, and they got a nice little Barden cottage page. Fantastic. And I read their profile. They're in finance, and they're doing this as a side job. So they're obviously into it. I don't know whether it's their first. I don't even know these people, but get out there, get into it, have a go, and have fun along the way. And look, as I said, if it doesn't work out, you sell it. But, if you do your research, study the market, you're not going to pay too much. If that's your goal, you just got to do it, because, look, property's provided a lot of good things for me over the years, and I can say that I wouldn't have been sitting in the position that I have in the last few years to be buying some commercial property if it wasn't for all that driving around I did in the 2000s, early 2000s. Sorry, studying the market back to front, and I just knew there was back then there was a shortage of units. There wasn't the high density units there are now, and I knew they were easy, they paid for themselves. So guys, 5th point is just do it, just get into it. Sam, there's a few questions that came through.
Yep, we've got first question from Lauren.
Hi Lauren, how are you?
If you were starting your property portfolio again, what would you do and where would you buy?
Okay, so this came through. Lauren has asked if I was starting out again and where would I start my property portfolio, where would I buy? Now, it depends where you live. I would buy where I knew. So probably where most people spend most of their lives is where they grow up, or a market where they want to live. So, Lauren, to answer your question, if it was me personally, I would be looking around the inner west of Brisbane. So if you're asking me, Ben Wakely, I would buy something. I'd buy a unit. Okay, this is where I'd start if I was on a lower wage. I'd buy a unit, and I would buy somewhere in Taringa, Toowong, St Lucia, Paddington, Auchenflower, Red Hill, somewhere in the inner west, somewhere where I knew. I would look for a unit in a smaller complex with a maximum of 6 to 8 units. I'd look for the older style. I'd look for a unit block with low body corporates. And I'd look for a unit that hadn't been touched. So say if it was built in the 80s, it hadn't been touched. So all you have to do is cosmetics. So with interest rates, say you're paying $400,000 for that, it's going to cost you, whatever a year, in interest. It's going to cost you not much in interest. So you buy that property, you do a cosmetic renovation. Make sure you buy the property incredibly well. You do a cosmetic renovation to the property. You live in the property. You don't pay any capital gains tax. Whether you're in a position income-wise to use the equity to go and use the equity in it. So say you buy the property for $400,000. You spend $20,000 on it. You get it revalued at $500,000. There's $80,000 worth of equity in that property. If you sell it, you're going to have a few costs involved. You might sell it. Say you sell it. Comes down to $490 with costs, commission. You walk away with then basically $80,000. So it just depends on $70,000. Sorry, it just depends on what you want. If you want to free that cash up and then go and buy another one, so then I would go and buy a house. But the preference would be to keep the unit, get it revalued. If it's returning, get it rented, get that income paying for all the costs, paying for all the repayments, helping you provide income. You might want to Airbnb it. That was never around when I started. I'd look and hit that Airbnb market. That's a great market to hit, and especially if you've only got one. I used to manage my own properties. I had such a ball and met so many great people when I was young because I used to love doing, I was working, I was selling real estate, playing rugby, and I also was managing my own properties, and I had a ball. So I'd manage my own property as well. You never know who you're going to meet as well along the way. So look, that's what I'd do. Do a renovation, look to buy another one, use the equity, manage it yourself. Next question, Sam.
Next question is from Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
What advice would you give your fellow real estate agents who earn a good income but waste it on expensive cars and suits instead of buying a property?
Daniel, this comes up very often. Mate, the amount of conferences I go to and you think, it's really surprising, and it's a really good question, how many agents actually earn a good income and actually don't own a property themselves. I mean, for one, being an agent, I think it gives you a lot of credibility if you own a house or a property in the area that you're selling in. That's number one. I think two, it's a great, great way to it's not the commissions you earn from being an agent. It's more about growing your wealth through property. And look, I know a lot of agents out there that have done really, really well, and a lot of older agents that have done really well in our area, not necessarily in just a bit out of our area, that have done really well buying residential property and commercial property. So, it can look, there's an old saying, guys, you can have, all the swank and, and have nothing in the bank, and look, there are a lot of agents out there that, won't put their money where their mouth is. So, I'd even be sceptical of taking advice off a lot of some of those agents that don't own property in that area, because are they going to put their money where their mouth is? I know, in this area, I own, obviously quite a fair bit with Sam as well, and we bought a commercial building last year. So, so look, my advice would be to put your money where your mouth is and do it yourself. I think, because these times won't last. It's a good market. It's a strong market at the moment. So if you don't set yourself up right, you're telling other people to buy a property, but you won't do it yourself. So I'd be the first one. I hope that answers your question, Daniel. I'd be the first one to step back and say, why aren't you buying it yourself if they didn't own any property in the area? But yeah, guys, get into the market. You see it day to day. You should be able to spot a deal. If you know the market and you're a real estate professional and you're an agent, you should know your market in your area. So there isn't any reason why, you're on a good income and drive a nice car, but, rent a house.
Next question is from Nick.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
I'm 26 and have a steady income, but the bank wants a bigger deposit. Do you have any ideas?
Okay. It'd be great to know what income you're on, Nick, and what you're looking to buy. So a pretty broad question. To answer that briefly, because I'd need to know your income and I need to know, basically, what you're looking to buy. Look, Nick, if you're just short, I'd save more. I'd probably, go out, mate. Just make sure you're not going out too much and wasting all your money. Build up a bigger deposit. The other thing you can do is, if you've got friends or family, go halves in a house or a property with them. The other thing you can do is buy a property. Say you buy a 3-bedroom house, rent the other 2 bedrooms out to your mates. Buy a property, move into it for a while, cover the cost for 6 to 12 months, then move out, go back and live back at home with your parents or go and rent with your friends, and the rent then will cover your repayments. So hope that covered it quickly there, Nick. Those problems, but please send me a private message as well, because I know you did send that through earlier. If we can go into a little bit more in depth, I'm happy to. If anyone ever wants to come in the office, I've met a few of the younger generation coming through and younger agents. If you do want to come through, I can have a chat to you further about that. But there's a few ideas there that you could make up that little bit. But if you're on a good income, mate, do not flush it down the drain and do not waste it. Yeah, just go out and buy something.
Next question, is from Glenn.
Hi Glenn, how are you?
In the current strong market conditions, do you advise to flip, buy and hold? Also, when using equity in investments, how do you manage LVRs?
Just write this down. So flip, buy and hold. Glenn, mate, realistically, it depends on what area you're in. I know you did send me a message earlier or comment that you would be watching it tonight, so thanks very much for that. It depends what area you're in. Look, if you, as I mentioned earlier, it depends what your goal is, mate. If you're looking to make a large amount of, or a decent amount of cash, move it into something else, definitely the buy and flip. If you are looking to use the equity, it depends on the LVRs. Look, I always try and at least get about 40%, equity in a property, to roll it into the next one. I probably wouldn't be looking to do it anything other than that, less than that. If you can hold, if you're on a good income, mate, or you're in a steady income and you've got, and it's somewhere where, you and I think your wife are living, look, just hold on to it and, and look to, create or get it revalued and then look to buy another one and maybe do a project on the side. Because it can be hard with a young family to be moving every 6 months. That can be stressful in itself. And I know people spoke to a gentleman, a good client yesterday. Hopefully he's watching in, David, if you are. We were just talking to him. He came through an open house. He's looking for a unit for his daughter. And he bought a house off me earlier in the year. he said, yeah, moving, just terrible. Like, I mean, it is a hassle. So Glenn, if you do have a young family, you've got to factor in your moving costs, your transitional costs, your commissions. So you can chew up a fair bit of your capital in moving. So if you can, I'm a big believer in holding on to the property, use the equity and go into another one. Or at least hold on to one property and then work off that. So say for instance you buy a property for 500. We'll use the figure of 500,000. You spend 200,000 on it. It's worth $1 million. You're living in that. Use the equity off that to then go and buy another one without having to move and having all those transactional costs. I think that would be my preference. Is always growing a portfolio. Growing wealth is holding on, because we all look back over time, mate. We always look back and go, geez, those houses in Paddington were cheap. I mean, I remember paying just under $300,000 for a property. I bought it for $287,500, and I thought I was paying way too much for that property. And now that property is probably worth $700,000. So it's all good in hindsight. Look, I don't own that one anymore. I sold that to buy a house that was more expensive. So, I looked at the, basically, so the house I bought was over $1 million. 20% on $1 million is more than 20% on a house that I sold that for $590. So, look, I think if you can hold on, it's definitely a better way of doing it. But you're going to get to a stage where, unless the income's very good and you're not paying down, you are paying down your loan, not just interest only, that's going to get yourself in a better position. So on your primary place, with interest rates where they are, I have been harping onto it. Pay down as much debt as possible on that, and then that'll put you in a better financial position for your next one. But send me a message, mate. I'd love to help out, and I'm really grateful for you asking that question. And look forward to catching up soon.
Last question is from James.
Hi, James. How are you?
I'm a builder, and I see that you guys work a lot with the Grey Construction Boys. How do you suggest that I start doing my own developments?
What's his name? James. Hi, James. Yeah, James. Look, mate. I don't know your situation as far as how old you are, how much you're earning. If you're going out by yourself being a builder, look, at the end of the day, always have that, as I said, that nest, so your own place, because that's going to be, so say if you do your first one and it's your first house, and you're buying it in your own name, you're not buying it in a company name, there's going to be no capital gains tax. Whether you hold on to it for 12 months or 6 months, you just got to move in, make sure it's your primary place. So I would do that. I'd live in the property. I'd buy one so you save time as well. If you buy a character home, you can live in the renovation. You can't buy a block of land and build a contemporary home and live in that, because you need a Form 21. So a Form 21, guys, so you know, is a certificate of completion. So it's a very smart way to minimise your tax. So when you buy a property, so say it's a Queenslander and you're doing a renovation, or even a post-war, you're doing a renovation. If you're living there throughout the renovation, that's when you start living in the property and you can start work to it. And then when you go to sell, you're not paying that capital gains tax because you are living in the property at your primary place. If you build a brand new home and you never live in it, you're going to be paying capital gains tax because you've only just got the Form 21. So that's what I'd be doing. I'd be buying a Queensland. I'd be buying something like that, and then just start off small. The Gray brothers, Rob and Andrew, have done a fantastic job, and they've built incredible wealth through starting off small, baby steps. That's the other key to it, James, for you. Baby steps. Start off with one, start off with entry level, start off with low. Don't go and buy a $1.5 million house and try and spend $800 on it and, make $500, Start small, start with baby steps. That goes back, guys, to the whole night tonight in talking about growing with a property portfolio. Start by baby steps. It's playing the long game. You have to play the long game in property. It's very hard to buy a property and flick it on very quickly for a lot of money. unless your name's Ben Schluter, who's done that recently, which is well done. Unless you've got someone that's going to pay you very silly money very quickly. So, to build a really good, solid portfolio, as we just mentioned to Glenn before, buy and hold over a long period of time. You'll turn around in 10 years' time and think that was a cheap buy. So, guys, I hope that answers all your questions tonight. Have a really good week. We're going to have a really good week this week, I think, in real estate. As I said, there was really good numbers for all the properties. I heard a couple of auctions went off in the area that I'm in. There's a lot of positivity out there, as much as the press, sometimes tries to bring it down, and a fair bit of negativity. I think there's going to be a really good run into the end of the year. We've got a couple of buyers appointments this week that are hopefully going to convert to sales. So look forward to seeing you all next Sunday. Have a good week.